Hello and welcome to episode number 112 of the NerdProQuo Podcast. Before we get to our guest, which is Matt Latkiewis from the amazing show You Can Do Better, we are going to have the other co-host, which is Abby Crutchfield, who is a former guest of this show. Going to be having that episode coming up soon. You should definitely check out You Can Do Better on Tru-TV, 10:30 every Tuesday on Tru-TV. Talk about a lot of things, the show, being a writer, booze, comic books. We cover a lot of ground, but before we get to that, and even before we get to plugs, well, let's do the plugs first. So, of course, every Tuesday night, you can go check out the Union Square Slam at the Bureau of General Services Queer Division in the LGBT Community Center. That is at 208 West 13th Street in room 210. That is a $5 cover, 7 p.m. Emily Eastman is the feature this Tuesday night. You should go check that out. That is going to be awesome. Also, Tuesday night, when you get home from the slam, because you should get home in time, you can definitely check out, I believe there are still new episodes coming out. I'm going to have to double check that. But second season is coming of You Can Do Better Tuesday nights at 10:30 on Tru-TV. Check your DirecTV or cable network guide to figure that out, what channel that is for you wherever you are located. Also, every Friday night, the Living Room Comedy Show, that is at the Postmark Cafe, 8 p.m. That is free, and that is 6th Street between 4th and 5th Avenue in Park Slope, Brooklyn. Those are the plugs. Okay, I'm going to try not to do this too much because there's probably going to be a whole separate solo episode. I feel like we occasionally delve into politics on this, so I'm not going to pretend like what happened. I am recording this after this intro, after Tuesday, so we all know what happened. I don't need to tell you what happened. I know a lot of you out there, especially if you're a fan of this podcast, you tend to swing a certain way politically, and you are having portents, whatever that word is, of doom. And I honestly don't know what to tell you. We're all kind of living in the aftermath of that. Been a really long week. I'm not going to pretend that what happened didn't happen. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not angry and or sad and or disappointed with the country and with people in general. I was surprised momentarily. I'm not surprised anymore. But I figure if I didn't bring it up, and this is post-election, really recent post-election, it's going to be like, oh, really, you're not going to bring it up? You're not going to bring it up? You're just going to go straight to the guest, in which you don't address it at all? What's wrong with you? I mean, I know it's a nerd podcast, but it's also, with Justin and the other people, you often deal with issues of politics and all of these things. It has definitely been part of this podcast. So, yes, I am addressing it. I'm not going to completely address it in this podcast. There will probably be a solo episode coming up. Maybe an episode in which we bring in Justin and a couple other people and we talk about it. Maybe. I don't know. Still kind of coming to terms with it. And I'm going to leave it at that for now. But I just wanted to acknowledge, yes, I know what happened. Yes, I'm upset about it, as many of you, I'm sure, are. But in the meantime, let's distract ourselves, shall we? With this episode, Matt Latkiewis. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It seems from the spelling that is how I spell it. He can always get back to me and let me know whether I'm pronouncing that wrong. But you'll notice a couple things in this episode. Occasionally there's a beeping or little noises that sound like a car. That's because Matt was driving home in LA traffic, so he had plenty of time to do this via phone, but every once in a while you're going to hear a weird beeping noise or something like that. That is a car. A couple times I got very fearful that he might die during the during this episode, during talking to him, I got a little concerned. Luckily, as far as I know, he did not die. Although we might all die now. Oh God, that's apocalyptic. I shouldn't be beginning this very cheerful and wonderful talk with Matt by having more portents of doom. But it's hard not to, given the climate that we are now in. But given that, we are going to try and progress with our lives as if everything is normal and try and enjoy ourselves, try and enjoy what we can, maybe distract ourselves with our nerdy... I mean, a lot of us are nerds. This is why we are nerds. Because we're doing nerdy shit, because we're trying to distract ourselves from reality, because reality can sometimes be pretty rough, and I know it's been pretty rough for a lot of us this past week. So, yeah. My suggestion, go indulge in something fun, indulge in your nerdiness, you know. It's okay to be distracted for now. You can always get to work. I think we all got to get to work in some way or another to make sure that things don't go horribly wrong. But in the meantime, you can always put on a podcast to distract yourself or give yourself a little bit of comfort. Like this one, episode number 112 of the NerdProQuo Podcast with Matt Latkiewis from You Can Do Better. Get into it.
Well, everyone, just imagine.
Right.
What I sound like in real life.
So you said that it came from the book. So was the original pitch for the show your idea, or was it like how did it go from the book to moving to Tru-TV,
to the television?
And then how you met Abby? Did you know Abby before? All of that type stuff. And we will get more about booze and comics, but I want to get through this first.
Yeah, I can only go about 10 minutes before I start talking about bars again. So yes, it was a crazy story. I mean, it was definitely not what I was trying to do. Like, I wasn't trying to make a TV show. I mean, I've always wanted to be like a fancy pants, fiction writer and write novels and things like that, but no one gets paid to do that. So I wasn't really thinking about TV, but I got connected with this production company because of some stuff that I had written. And what I learned, I don't know if this is interesting to you. You may even know all this stuff, but I don't really understand how the entertainment industry works. And as far as I can tell, it's just this weird secret club that you kind of have to like get inducted into or something. But what I really learned is that if you put work out into the world, and you just keep doing it consistently, especially if it's, and that's where the internet has been really valuable to me as a creator and as a writer, is that I've just been able to put stuff out on my own terms, under my own name. And so that got me an agent, because I've been writing for various blogs and stuff based on my McSweeney stuff. And then my agent hooked me up with this production company who had made a show about beer. So when I published this book, I all of a sudden had the coin of the realm. Like a book gave me a way to get into meetings with people who are looking to develop alcohol-related content, basically. And so the fact that I was also like had a little bit of a performing background and it was funny enough, like was trying to be entertaining, like just got me a few meetings, and then this one production company called Red Tail, which is based in LA, and they had a show on Esquire about beer, and so we made what they call a proof of concept, and just tried to sell it. And so we took it around to a number of places, got rejected at most of them, but Tru was going through yeah, exactly, and that's what I mean. I've been. The publishing industry is different than TV, but it's still just a slog of heartbreak. Like, I think that's all it is. And so I was not. I was really not anticipating anything, but Tru. It was just one of those like good moments where Tru was looking for. They were changing their brand. You know, it started as Court TV.
Yeah, I remember it was Court TV.
Yeah, and then it was a true crime kind of thing, and then show, and then or network, and then recently they have pivoted again to become kind of a reality comedy hybrid thing. You know, like comedy shows that kind of have a reality or an unscripted ethos to them, as opposed to just a straight up scripted comedy show. And so my show just fit really well with what they were trying to do. It was kind of this infotainment kind of thing that they like, and that they do with another show called Adam Ruins Everything, and
Almost Genius, and it's like, yeah, as a person who is kind of a comedy nerd, it's just like, oh, that person, and as often
yeah, it's really crazy. Like John Glazer's on their network now, and Bobcat Goldthwait is going to have a show, and like it's just really, like they really, I think why they are finding, why they're snagging that is because they are asking, and this is my theory at least, that they're just offering a new kind of internet style of comedy. You know, like you don't have to staff up like a sitcom, you know, and it can be done. You don't have to have the same production cycle as a sitcom. You can shoot it more like an unscripted show, which is looser and cheaper. Right. Have you seen Billy on the Street?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that show must cost like $1. Like, how much does that show cost? And yet it's extremely funny. And so I think he kind of shows, and Adam does as well, that like you can do comedy in kind of this looser, more internet kind of friendly way, you know.
So was the first time you met Abby? Because what I was gonna say is like you have people like there are comedians who I've like heard of, and what a lot of times happens is when and I've noticed this before. And I won't give you the whole story of. I will give you a whole story of like how Abby and me met, and like I've known her a really long time. But what happened is one of those. Wow, there's like a weird ticking. Is that you?
Oh, that is me. That is my turn signal, everybody. That is. Oh my God, it's a bomb! It's about to blow up.
I was just like,
you're getting a lot of car noise.
Are you sitting in your car right now? Are you driving somewhere?
Yeah, I'm driving. So my day went later. I'm actually we're working on the second season, and I just moved to LA. So I'm driving all the way across town from the west side to my new home in Echo Park.
Oh, that's awesome. Where are you from originally?
Originally, I moved around a bunch as a kid. I grew up mostly in Texas and in London, but I was in Massachusetts for a really long time after college.
Where in Massachusetts? Sorry.
From Western Mass. In the Amherst, Northampton area.
Okay.
I don't know if you know. It's where I went to college out there, and then stayed.
Did you go to Amherst, or was it?
No. Although, all right. You're talking the talk. All right.
Yeah, I've performed up there a couple times in that area. Not stand up, which is what I used to do. If you think that okay. Oh God. Here we go. Okay. If you think that trying to be a writer of like short stories is like, you can't really make a living at this, try spoken word poetry. There's and don't get me wrong, I still love all the people I met in that community. I still love doing that. But yeah, I actually toured that area a couple of times.
No, you toured as like a spoken word poet?
Yeah, I definitely did.
Did you? I was in that world for a little while, and I went to a school called Hampshire College.
Okay. Oh God. Okay, throw some names out because we probably know some of the same people.
Yeah. I started something called the Hampshire College Slam Poetry Collective.
Okay. Let's see. Who do I know from there? Because I'm trying to remember who's actually went to Hampshire.
Yeah.
There's a guy named Sean Conlon, although I don't know if that's what he was calling himself when he was in college.
Not Tom. It was Sean, not Tom.
It could have been Tom. So there are some other names out of people who were part of that. I really don't know this stuff. This is such a small universe.
The only, Tom Richardson would be the only guy. It's funny, my memory is so bad for names, and it was such a bizarre little period of my life. But it's it was an exciting, it was such a funny little time in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
That New Eureka thing, and it just had energy. It just felt cool. I remember going to see some shows and just being like, oh man, because it was this was also at a time when I don't know. Oh God, we don't need to go down this rabbit hole. But what would you? Listen, give me. What do you what were you when you would tour? What would you do? Were you on a team?
Yeah. So I was weirdly enough because I'm not from Jersey, but I'm actually born and bred in New York. But I ended up being on 3 consecutive New Jersey National Poetry Slam teams. And
no.
Yeah. And 2 of them were in. The first one was in Cambridge in 2011. And then there was another one where I was both on the team and coached it, and that was 2013. And that was also...
Oh, dude, you are serious!
That was also in Cambridge, and because through those 2, especially the first year, I just met the entire... Basically, there's a slam that used to be at a place called the Cantab in Cambridge. And basically, all the people in New England used to kind of congregate around the Cantab. And so I basically met all of the people who ran all of the slam venues in New England. And then I, once or twice, I just, hit them up. And some of the places I performed, and you get paid, a little bit, and they buy your merchandise. I had, little chapbooks and an audio CD that I had a digital download card for. And also, a couple of them, it was just hey, can I come hang out with you guys? Because you guys are cool. And, sleeping on people's couches. And, yeah, I did, a little mini tour of New England because of that.
And did you have, did you have, a lot of, what did you write about?
Early on, it was a lot of nerdy comedy type stuff, because I did stand-up for 3 years straight. Oh, my God, this has become an interview with me. But I did stand-up for 3 years.
I am also a host.
Yes. Yes, you are. I did stand-up, solidly for, 3 or 4 years, and then in New York, and that's how I met Abby and Luke, her husband Luke, and I don't actually remember how we met, but, we were doing stand-up, and then I went off, and I won't get into the whole story, but I stopped doing stand-up and started doing poetry for a little while, and then I did poetry for about 5 years, and now I'm back to doing stand-up again. And in the interim, to get back on topic is when you were talking about, you go in and you're talking about shows, as what happens with some of these networks is on a long enough timeline, someone ends up on television.
You're right. Yeah. There's got to be some scientific law about that, right?
Well,
given enough time, with enough infinite people.
In New York for a while, if you knew actors on a long enough timeline, everyone you knew who was an actor would end up on Law and Order. That's basically how that went.
Right.
Because they shot in New York, and they just needed extras and actors all the time to be on episodes.
Yeah.
So basically, everyone I knew who was an actor, if they waited long enough, would end up playing a dead body on Law and Order.
Yeah. Abby and Abby, of course, has been years. She's been in pilots. She's more of an entertainment industry vet than I am. But both of us are pretty new, in general to TV. Abby's had a little more success. She's been in commercials and all that kind of stuff. But this is definitely I think the biggest thing that we've done on TV. It's definitely the biggest thing I've done, and I'm pretty sure it's hers too.
Right.
So that's been interesting. I didn't know Abby. when we pitched the show, originally we actually pitched it as a drinking show. And it was going to be just about drinking. And then we thought about that for about 5 minutes and realized that was a terrible idea. This is not enough. It would just run out. You know, what are we going to really? I mean, we're not going to really, can't really do the show. So that's when we broadened it out to be everything. And at that point, the network wanted to do a co-host, which I think was a really good idea because it allows us to just have, different. It's just like different, like we can talk about it and we can have different takes on the subject. So it allows us to just get, rather than just one point of view, we can have two, which helps make it more dynamic and cool.
Right.
So we auditioned a few people. It was definitely the weirdest interviews I've ever done because it was like talking to, they wanted a female co-host. So it was just me talking and to a bunch of talented women and deciding among them. I was like, just like I've always dreamed.
Yeah. It's such a weird
but no, we auditioned a bunch of people, and Abby and I hit it off. And
so
we went from there.
How involved were you in the development of the show, and how involved are you in the, like, I guess the day-to-day? Because it sounds kind of like a little bit like this was your baby that kind of grew into a gangly teenager. I don't know what the appropriate analogy would be.
Yeah, no, it you know what it grew into? It grew into like the teenager who like wears a fedora to school. Like it grew into like the teenager who thinks he's like really, really cool, but then like after like a little bit of hindsight, I look back. Even at the previous season, I'm like, oh man, we got a lot of growth that's coming. I mean, it was, I guess, like it definitely. I mean, I was really involved in the development, and I'm a writer first, like before anything. So, in terms of like how I, what I feel comfortable and what I care about and how my brain kind of operates. So I'm in the writer's room and am part of the kind of creative brain trust. But yeah, I've had to learn. I mean, I'm used to, sitting alone, for hours at a time, just kind of banging my head against a wall. And so working with other people, on creative projects, it's a weird, it's hard. I mean, it's a really hard, thing, because it's what type of organization, what type of group of people, how should that group work together in order to create an entertainment, comedy product? And obviously there are lots of, examples and people who've done it for many, many years. But for me, it's a new type of collaboration, and I've had to learn how to, like, I came in real hot on the first season. Like,
okay.
I'm used to just being like, here's the idea, here's how we're doing it, I'm out of here, like, I'm going to go write it all myself.
Yeah.
And that obviously doesn't work. So yeah, I'm involved, but I'm learning to be a better collaborator. How about that?
Okay. So just because, and I hate to do this to you, but
do it.
Just because the first half I had not figured out this audio thing.
Oh yeah.
So can we talk about a little bit about the genesis? Because you did say it started as a book. What was the book called?
Yeah. So the book was called "You Suck at Drinking."
Okay.
With the subtitle being something like "Being a Complete Guide to Drinking in Any and All Situations in Your Life, Including Outdoor Chores like Deck Building," and it like has this really long subtitle.
Right.
And it was like, yeah, and so the idea was, and it kind of came out of this column that I had been writing for this blog called Grub Street for a while, called Sloshed.
Right.
And the idea behind Sloshed was that it was about drinking. So rather than writing about like 15 new pumpkin drinks for fall, or a new cocktail bar opened and I went and the Vesper was really good, or whatever, like, I instead was like, all right, here's how to drink at a wedding, Right. Here is the safest drink to order in any bar in America. Here's how to pick wine. Here's how to choose wine by the label. Like, basically, I was trying to, like, come up with ways in which people interact with booze for real, not like a drinks writer.
Right, exactly.
So that turned into the book, You Suck at Drinking, which was just all of those lessons. Most of them were kind of new just because it was a slightly different format. It was written, my original idea, and this, the thing I turned in, my first draft was absurd. Like, I was like, I want it to be...
There is a hazard ahead in 3.4 miles.
Shut up.
The shoulder is closed. You're still in the fastest
Shut up.
route.
Are you hearing that?
Yes,
Did you hear my car talking?
Yes.
hazard
I'm now
up ahead,
horribly
everybody.
terrified that you're going to die.
If I die, then this will be... so please tell everybody that I left it.
By the way, the entire time we've been talking, I've been like, oh my god, is he on a freeway? Oh my god, I hope he's in someplace residential where he's...
No. Here's the deal. Have you been to... So you live in New York.
Yes.
I'm just getting... And this is so dumb. It's like LA and the driving or whatever. I'm going 15 miles an hour. Like, I'm basically like in like an amusement park ride for kids. Like, it's so slow.
Well, yeah, because I mean, it's like 9 something here, but you're like right smack in rush hour, aren't you? Right now, kind of.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
But rush hour here is just like rush at 4 hour. I mean, it is. Yeah. It's always like this. It's no fucking joke. Like, ugh. Anyway, it's not interesting. So, oh yes. The book.
So is the book available, by the way? Because I am curious. Okay, is it available on Amazon? Because I would like to link in the doobly-doo.
It's definitely available on
Amazon. Get a
Amazon.
copy of this book because I am curious now.
You can probably get it for 30 cents, I would imagine, on Amazon. Or you can go to my website and get the link there. The website is drinker.pro.
Okay.
Which I was pretty excited about.
How is that domain not taken already?
Oh, well, here's the deal. They released a bunch of new top-level domains.
Okay.
So there are so many .whatevers now, and so pro is one. So I just went through and bought all these ones. Like, I have one, oh shit, what is it? Drinker.pro is pretty happy with. Oh yeah, I have this web-based story that I'm working on. One of my fiction projects that no one will probably ever see. That's at Legal. It's about this fake company called Legality.
Okay.
And you go, and it has a website, and you go and you sign up, and you get the story as if you were being onboarded as an employee.
Okay.
To this company, and it's a crowdsourced justice system, and the website is legality.works. And I was pretty happy about that too.
Yeah, I have a couple like video things that are like, I have this great idea, and then I've written them, and then I was just like, okay, now everyone else's schedule. Okay, this is not going to happen for another 6 months. Very much.
Yeah, I have so many domains that I bought with great ambition in mind, and and then just kind of collect dust. But anyways, drinker.pro. You can go there and see, get the link, and kind of get a little more information about it. But
and
yeah,
you also said
available.
You wrote for McSweeney's, right? Did I hear that correctly? Okay. And was that also like a drink-related thing? Yeah,
that was a wine column called Stained Teeth.
Okay.
And the idea was that it was a wine review column in which I never talked about the wine. Like, it was always like, I went to this thing and there was this wine, and then something would happen.
Of course.
And it was always about like the stories that would happen.
And then the book went into, that was the part that I said we did earlier. Ooh, what was that sound?
That's my car telling me again. I'm driving this rental car that's very fancy.
Okay.
And it buzzes and it beeps and it tells me all sorts of information.
And it makes noises.
About myself.
Does it park by itself?
You know what? It doesn't park by itself. Huh. Bullshit. This car's not that fancy.
So the book led to the process of how the book led to the show. I think that's where we were. We might be going over some of it, but I can always go back and edit stuff a little bit.
Yeah, you got it. Of course, yeah. Yeah, so I wrote that book, and totally randomly, I had been kind of connected with an agent in LA who there's a lot of junior agents whose job it is. I'm kind of learning is to kind of scout, right? And so they look at YouTube and they look at the web or in general on Twitter, and they just kind of, if they see somebody who maybe they could develop into a show or who maybe has show ideas, they're kind of just doing that. So I had someone who saw some of the stuff I was writing and started helping me out because she was an agent who did stuff in food and drinking and stuff. And so then she connected me with this production company that did some shows, did a show on Esquire about beer. So because I wrote about drinking and they did a show about beer, she connected to us, and they were in the process of looking to develop new projects. So we made a little pilot or a little sizzle reel, what they call it, of the book. We basically took segments of the book and filmed them for free. We spent our own money on it, or they spent their own money, and or the production company did, and then we went around and they just pitched it to various networks, and most rejected. It's kind of an odd hybrid of things. This kind of infotainment-y kind of comedy advice show.
Right.
Wasn't sure where it fit, but luckily Tru was really buying stuff that is in that. Basically right in that genre. That's kind of what they're doing. Yeah. So it was a good fit for them.
I was for a really long time, just because there've been so many bad versions of those shows, those types of shows.
Yeah.
And then I was even apprehensive when I saw early on that Tru-TV was picking up a bunch of these, but then I saw the people who were we brought up Adam Ruins Everything and John Glazer, and then Almost Genius is
and
April Richardson. Yeah.
Yep.
And then I was just and Billy, I was just oh, okay. I have mixed feelings about this genre, but I like all of these people.
Yeah, I have a lot of mixed feelings about it too, because it's very similar to a lot of the stuff that I had tried to avoid doing when I was writing for various websites. Because the idea, there's so much stuff, there's so much shit out there in the world, content made, and there's so many channels to fill it on, and so they'll buy. You're talking about the kind of bad version of these shows is it's comedians sitting in front of a green screen saying the dentist, oh man, whenever I have to go to the dentist, I make sure and get that Novocaine,
right,
or whatever, and it's just they're just forcing jokes onto information. It doesn't quite work. But Tru seems to be trying to figure out how do you actually just make compelling, interesting content, in a comedy kind of way, and it's something that I think people from the internet have figured out how to do.
Yeah. Because the show,
in a way that TV hasn't.
You can do better. Is I also really appreciate the way the actual the episodes are structured. Because if it was any of those any of the aspects of the show, if they weren't split up the way they were, I think somehow it might not work. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And also,
and I've seen cuts of that show, and luckily they never went out.
Right. What's funny?
Yeah, there are.
Wait, did I lose you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. When you brought up those shows where you had the comedians just commenting on stuff, I also have really mixed feelings about those, because I was okay, I don't like this show, but I do. But the same thing was I did stand up for so many years, and then I started to see people that I know, And this has nothing to do with me being like jealous of people or anything. It was actually kind of exciting. It was like, oh, but they employ a lot of comics who get a paycheck from that. You know what I mean? Where like that's your credit, you know. So it's almost like I don't like the show, but I'm glad they're employing people I like. You know what I mean? Like even if it's people I like doing something that I don't know. I have really mixed feelings about it. As you can tell.
Me too. I mean, the whole purity of like, I mean, everyone wants to just like do their like wacko, or not everybody, but like, you know, you get into comedy or you get into writing because you want to make art or you want to make people laugh or you want to blow their minds or you want to give them a special experience. But the business of it all is not, they don't care. I mean, like some people do, like, and quality obviously is getting higher, and I think people are realizing that because there's so much garbage out there, you know, quality actually does matter, you know, and perspective matters, but there is so much of it where you know, like because you're funny, they'll just throw you into garbage and you'll make it a little better because you're funny or, you know, whatever. But it's not the core of the show isn't good. You know, like it's just not a good concept, or it's not. It has no heart. You know, it has no integrity.
Right.
And I think what we're trying to do and is have integrity in a format that has the potential to be, you know, just kind of so-so, you know, because, you know, so-so, you know, can be enough sometimes, but we're trying to give people legitimate information in a way that feels sincere and feels at least intentional.
Yeah, and entertaining. And what I think I brought this up way earlier, but just in case we didn't get the good audio version of it, is just the idea that there are so many things that when you're an adult that no one really like instructs you, just kind of have to figure it out on your own. And I really did I was watching, I mean, full disclosure, I was watching the show because I'm friends with Abby, and we met through stand-up, and I've known her for a really long time now. And I was like, I want to support Abby because she's co-hosting this show, and that's amazing. And then I watched the preview, I was like, oh, okay. And then, of course, I think the preview that they put out on YouTube was the Booze episode, like a chunk of the Booze episode. And I was like, oh, yes, definitely relate, not for myself, for other people, relate to, no one ever instructs you of how to drink like an adult, essentially. And then as the episodes progressed, I got like excited about it in a genuine way. I was like, oh wow, there's so many things that like as an adult you really, because there's so many things that seem stupid and simple that you think are obvious, but that no one actually explained to you. And to have a show that actually just lays it out in an entertaining and funny way, I got really excited about. I was just like, oh, people could actually, I mean, it sounds corny, but people could actually be helped by this show.
Yeah, I mean, that's my hope. Yeah, that's cool, man. I mean, I'm totally with you. On the and the goal of the show is to make people feel more comfortable, more engaged, more, and get more out of their everyday life.
Yeah. So
it's not about like going and like, oh, you gotta have this. It's not a travel show, right? It's not like let's go to Marrakesh and like have this great adventure, which is awesome. And if you can do that, then go do that.
Yeah.
But for most of us, we just kind of every day is full of all these little moments where you're like, this could all be so much better. Like the person who doesn't know what they want to order by the time they get up to the front of the line at the cafe. It's like, come on.
Yeah. Like
we could all be doing a little bit better. The person who awkwardly strikes up a conversation at a bar with somebody, again, like that could be a really fun, positive experience for both people. And if people kind of engaged in their adult life in all those little moments that you never think about getting better at, I think that's the sweet spot. And we don't, hit it all every time, and I think it's hard. In a way, it's hard, right? Because you got to find those things that have that moment of like, oh, right, my God, I've never thought about the different types of bars and which ones I like more. Like, I've never thought about that. But that's what we're always going for, is those subjects.
So, just like that, I appreciate it. And I think a lot of that for me, because you mentioned that you worked in a cafe for a little while and you got really frustrated. I think a lot of that is so many people, I mean, comedians and a bunch of other people have mentioned this, is like, in America, I think it should be mandatory for everyone in America to work a service job for at least a month. Because just the perspective and what you're talking about, just like everyday moments, I found, one of the things I found compelling about the show, compelling is an odd word, to, by the way, to say about a comedy show, but it was compelling, was like, there's these everyday moments, and I found myself doing this in New York because everything's so fast-paced and people get really upset for no reason, for seemingly no reason. And there's a lot of stuff like little things like planning out your, a lot of it is planning out your day that people just, everyone is always talking about in New York, is like, everyone is in a hurry. And what I found as someone who grew up here is 95% of that is self-imposed. Is like everyone is in a rush because they didn't plan out enough time in their day to do everything, right? So
no, it's amazing how bad. Yeah, it's amazing how bad we all are at, and I think most people are at everyday life. Like, and it's that thing that you're saying. It's like we get taught all this stuff, and some of it's stupid garbage that we didn't need to learn. Like, I'm trying to think of a school subject that I found completely worthless. I mean, okay, look, I liked math in school. Like, I liked it. I was good at it. But, like, honestly, I should have just stopped after geometry or whatever and taken a class on, like how to argue with people in an effective way. Like, that would have been... I get into arguments way more than I use calculus. And I'm terrible at it. I get nervous. I just feel bad. I get flustered. And yet, arguing with whether it's with your spouse or your just a person on the street or a friend, like, there are times when you need to disagree with someone and work through that. And it's like, I never got taught how to do that. And so so it's like things we don't get a great education. We don't have a lot of, and the more and more we are like distributed, and we don't have intergenerational communities, and we don't have tight families. Like, I feel like a lot of these skills, like, you get taught. A lot of people talk about, like, oh yeah, my uncles taught me how to drink, or like whatever. Like, they were the ones who gave me my first cigar, and and helped me learn about the world of adulthood. That is mostly it's not how to build your. I mean, there is like how to build your career, how to like find true love, and those are important things. But most of adult life is not the big stuff; it's the little stuff.
Yeah, I had an older sister for that, and it was very helpful. She's 6 years.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So, just because I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I know these two topics might go on a little bit. So, booze. How did it start where you wanted to write about it? Because eventually you wrote a book about it. So did it transition from being in college and just getting drunk to I actually enjoy and I'm interested in this? Or was it always like, were you always like a drinker who was interested in alcohol, for lack of a better way of phrasing it?
No, I actually didn't really drink much in college. I was a not like a straight edge kid, but I was like really serious and very disciplined. Like I would go to the library every night, and I woke up at 5:30, and I was like this kind of like on track to be like, I thought I was going to be like some like genius philosopher guy, and I just had this like real rigid attitude about things, and so I really didn't get into alcohol until I got out of college, And I got really interested in
parallel there.
Oh, really? You as well?
I was pre-vet for a while, and then switched to film. And yes, also didn't really get into like drinking and booze until I was out of college. So similar.
Which, to be honest, I think that is a much better way to do it. Learning how to drink in college is like learning about like how to do your taxes from like a 4-year-old. Like, I mean, it is like, it's completely bonkers in college. Like, that is not what alcohol should be, or it's not how it should be used. And I'm not saying like frat parties and all stuff are like terrible and like whatever, but that's not a sustainable. If that is what you think drinking is, oh my god!
Oh my god!
Like,
you know, bad things are gonna happen.
Like, horror. That is a horrible relationship to have with alcohol. So I think I got into wine first, and I don't know. I think honestly, like I think it was that it loosened me up, but wine had this like. It was also like a nerdy thing, and I'm a kind of a nerdy. I mean, NerdProQuo. I'm a fellow nerd. Like, I get, you know, I'm an enthusiast. I'm a collector. You know, I collect comic books. I was like, you know, I'm a completist. You know, I like everything to have its place, and wine is like that, and it's very organized and whatever. So I started going to like these wine tastings, like by myself. I mean, it was very weird, like a very weird thing to do as a 22-year-old. Right. I would go to these like wine stores and take classes and like in wine, and so I just thought it was interesting and fun, and it was also like, oh, being drunk is great. I was like, oh, this is so fun. Like, oh, why don't I do this more in college? And so at that point is when I had this cafe, and so we sold beer and wine at this cafe, and so I had to write a wine menu, and so I was looking at wine menus, and I was like, you have to describe, you don't have to, but like you can describe the wine, you know, to give people a sense of like what it is, and most wine menus are herbaceous, and it'll say like, and tobacco notes, and you know, good with fish or whatever. Right. And I was like, I don't give a fuck about any of that shit. Like, because ultimately, after I started drinking and going to these wine tastings, I was like, who cares that it tastes like apricots? Like, things taste like other things. That's not interesting. That's just how things work. Like, some tastes are more similar to other tastes. Like, we don't all go walking around being like, you know, that tree reminds me of another tree that I saw. That's fascinating. Like, it's not interesting. So I got really ambitious about like these wine menus and coming up with new ways to describe wine. Like, I did a whole one that was just comparing them to. I mean, it was really. I was a philosophy major, so I was definitely up my own ass and like writing these wine menus, like comparing them to like short story authors that I liked, or different stages of a relationship, or, you know, I was trying to find like different approaches, and that is and then I met the McSweeney's crew because they came through the cafe to do a reading,
right?
And they liked the wine menu and asked if I wanted to do a wine column. So it was like, it was not a plan of mine. It was just like, oh, sure. And that led to just other things. Yeah. So now I call myself the Siddhartha of booze. I'm like, I've traveled all of the lanes. Like I was serious about wine, then I got into a real nerdy beer phase, like craft beer phase, and when the beer bar thing was going on, and I mean, it's still going on, but like when it started in the late '90s, and then I got really into cocktails and really nerdy about that, and now 90% of what I drink is cheap whiskey and cheap beer, like.
So,
because I'm like, that's what drinking has become for me. Like, what I enjoy most about it is sitting at a bar, or you know, making cocktails for my friends. But it's not about the crazy bonkers shit. Like, and not that stuff is bad. It's just that I don't really care anymore about that. I'm more interested in what booze is used for, and how it can enhance your life, and how it can make things more fun, and how to, you know, how to just have a better, I think booze allows people, if used well, to have a more fun life. I honestly believe that. It can ruin people's life and ruin your life too. But if used correctly, I think it can get you into places in the world that you wouldn't necessarily go if you were always within your sober brain.
Right.
And it can introduce you to people that you wouldn't necessarily meet if you always stay on the sober side of the street.
Right. So I can tell you that my now former roommate and also one of my best friends is the person who similarly we kind of geeked out. He got me on the whiskey tiff, which is definitely where I'm in currently, and we will do a list of things. We're definitely going to do that because that's what nerds often do. But
oh, sure.
For us, it wasn't even like nerding out about stuff or getting really specific. It was literally we would go to a place that had like a rotating beer menu, and we would just look at it. I mean, there's a couple places. Rattle and Hum is one of them in Manhattan, where you can just go and they rotate their stock like once a month, like the entire menu. And we would just look at the menu and go, or based on something that we liked in the past and go, let's try that. Or like, that sounds interesting, give me a pint of that. And we just do that. And it's not about like getting drunk, it's not about like getting really snooty about the beer. It's literally like, that sounds interesting, let me try that. And then you drink it and you're like, yes, I like that, or no, I don't think I would drink that again. And that's basically the level of it.
Yeah, and it's variety, and that's what I'm so excited about. I mean, there are a lot of even though I mostly, again, like 90% of my body at this point is wild turkey. You know,
American
I do like
was my vicious friend for a good 5 years there.
Oh man!
Shots of American honey.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. Wow. Yeah. It is, but it is fun. My bar used to be like bonkers at home. And it's not so much anymore. But it's fun. I mean, it's fun and different people, and it is a nerdy thing. Like, it is like, you know, people can get, they're snobby, and that's annoying, right? Because that's just like, that's where it's like, there's a right and there's a wrong in terms of what's good and what's not. And that's what ultimately, I was actually just talking with this guy in San Diego. Went to San Diego and was talking with this guy who was like a real serious mezcal. He used to be a sommelier, and now he's super into mezcal. Yeah, we were at this restaurant. And I was like, oh, you're not doing much wine stuff anymore? And he's like, no, I like wine, but I fucking hate wine people. Whereas whiskey, unfortunately, Scotch is the same. Scotch people, just bug me because it's like you're missing the point, man. Like, it's about enjoying. It's about the enthusiasm and enjoying the craft. And getting into it, but you cannot take it seriously because it's not important. It is not important.
As my roommate once said about one of his favorite Scotch whiskeys, it's like super smoky, and I'm not into super smoky. And he just described it as like, just give me anything that when I drink it, it tastes like I just licked a grill. I was just like, okay, fair enough.
yeah, and be into what you're into and whatever, but doing the thing where you are like, the guy, that's my least favorite guy at the bar who's like, kind of like, I don't see much here that this is okay, I suppose, and it's like, why are you living your life this way?
Right.
Like, that's not, this isn't, take advantage of the moment that you're in and enjoy it. Don't, you know.
So, just quickly, favorite beer and favorite whiskey, and then we will get the comics, and then I feel like I should let you go before you die. In your car.
No, I'm going to drive. We're going to keep talking until I die.
Yeah. You're just gonna, until you get to the ocean, and then you just get out, It's like, where did Matt go?
Yeah.
He just walks slowly into the ocean.
Yeah. As you know, NerdProQuo is the last thing I wanted to do before I die. That's what I've always said.
Well, I appreciate that. But whiskey and beer, unless you don't have them, if you just like. But do you have like a favorite beer and a whiskey?
I do. It honestly is. Well, okay. You know what? I have a favorite. It depends on kind of what is the situation. But like for my house whiskey. If anyone comes to my house, they will invariably drink Four Roses Yellow Label. Okay. Although I enjoy I think Four Roses is a great product. I think it's a great company.
Yes.
And they're one of these just old school American whiskey companies. They're not owned by anybody bigger. They're not, so that's another thing. I also just like a good business. I like companies that that's the other thing in supporting liquor is it's why I hate I think like all that like Chopin and Belvedere and the great vodka con, like all that shit is garbage.
Right.
Like maybe it's a fine product or whatever, but it's a marketing. It's all marketing. Like there's nothing special about Grey Goose, like and just like there's nothing that special about Four Roses, but it's a good company and they're not trying to like, bullshit you. And so that but mostly when I'm out drinking, and this is mostly because I'm a dickhead, but like I drink a lot of Wild Turkey. Okay. Mostly because it's 101 proof.
Yeah. I understand.
So I'm just like I just like to kind of be the hardcore guy that I am. I'm like oh, my car beeped at me again. I like that. And then my favorite beer is Miller High Life.
Okay. That was the Miller High Life in the shot was the most popular thing that we did at the bar I used to work at. Because we had a cheap deal on it.
But I would drink at every bar I would order that. Right. But I actually drink a lot of my favorite cocktail is a martini, a gin martini. So I drink a lot of that, and my favorite gin is Plymouth gin.
Okay. Definitely, I'm a fan of a Plymouth Gimlet is my thing.
Oh,
and
sure.
And Woodford Reserve is like my standard bearer both at home and when I'm at a bar. If it's available at the bar, it's just like pour me a glass of that, and I will sit here for the next hour. Give me 2 glasses of that, and that's my night. Like that's like that at the bar. So comic books. We have to talk about comic books because it came up on You Can Do Better, and I was like, wait. Like as soon as I tweeted it, like as soon as I saw like, wait, whiskey and comic books? Oh, I need to talk to this man.
Yeah.
So what are you reading and collecting? And is it collecting and reading, or is it just collecting?
It goes. It's not collecting. I stopped really collecting mostly because it's like, am I really gonna like I was going to the comic book shop every Wednesday, and like. I just, at a certain point, you have to really be like, am I really going to be dropping like $50 a week on comics? Like, that seems like a irresponsible thing to do.
Yeah.
So I read all in trades. I haven't gone digital yet. Have you done digital?
I have. It depending.
What do you think about that?
Depending on the book, it can either be, and I don't have. Like, I have a tablet, but it's better on a tablet. It's awkward on your laptop, and I still like the physical trade experience. Just because the field of vision thing is a thing that I don't think they've quite mastered either on a tablet. Like, a single page, you still have to, like, scroll, and it doesn't... For certain books, it works really well, depending on how the art is structured. The panels are structured, and for some of them, it like just doesn't work at all.
It just doesn't port. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so I mostly read trades now, and if I can, I'm a big proponent of libraries have really gotten great. There are certain libraries that have great graphic novels sections now,
and that's definitely started to like build up now that all of that is so popular.
Yep, and libraries are doing whatever they can to get you in the door. So, like, you know, like,
exactly.
so I would, but I do buy. I do buy books that I'm like really into. So, like, I just started Saga. That was something that's been on my list. It's fabulous.
Brian
so good. I mean, I love
one of my favorite writers. Brian K.
Me too. He's so good. I mean, I loved Why the Last Man. Obviously, I thought Ex Machina was so good.
Basically, anything that he writes, I will pick it up, even if it's a book I'm not incredibly interested in. And he still, in my opinion, had the best arc on Buffy the Vampire Slayer when they did like the subsequent seasons.
I never actually watched that. Yeah.
So they did like a season 8 and 9 and 10, and Brian K. Vaughan still has the best arc of the whole series, of all the people who are writing on it, including people who wrote on Buffy.
Totally. He is, I mean, he is an extremely talented, like, plot and character development guy. Like, he's just one of those guys who gets it. I mean, he just has a talent for it. But he's not as bonkers as, like, Grant Morrison, you know, or, you know, some of the other guys. But he's solid. He's more solid than most people as a writer. I've been really into another bonkers guy, but I think this is really funny. Sex Criminals. Are you reading that?
Yeah, someone keeps throwing that. Is that Warren Ellis?
No, it's Matt Fraction.
Matt Fraction, yes.
Which he's a weird fucking guy. Like I don't know if you read Casanova, like when he was doing that.
You know what's funny? I read his because I tend to. Everyone keeps telling me about Sex Criminals, and I haven't read it yet. But I did happen to really like the run he did on Iron Fist. Was it Iron Fist?
Oh, yes, his run on Iron Fist. I forgot about that. That was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, and Hawkeye. I loved him on Hawkeye, the first 4 trades.
Oh, I have not read his Hawkeye. Yeah, but I people have mentioned it to me.
If you read the Hawkeye, it'll make you wish that Jeremy Renner had gotten a Netflix series that had gotten adapted from that comic book. And you'll get bummed. This is really good, but you'll also get really bummed out. You'll be like, oh, this would have made an awesome Netflix series.
Yeah. Well, I'll add my name to that list of people recommending Sex Criminals. It doesn't sound like, at first I was like, ugh, it's just going to be this, like, you know, kind of bonkersy, like, really, like, you know, just kind of trying to be really crazy and weird and whatever, but it is legit, it's really good and really, really charming. What about you? Are you reading anything that you recommend?
I mean, I have my standard bearers because I was a big Buffy fan, so I tend to pick up the latest Buffy trade. Invincible, also great superhero book.
Oh yeah,
Kirkman. I actually like Kirkman's other, because I just burned out on Walking Dead. I just can't do it anymore. There's only so much relentless sadness that I can take.
Yeah.
So there's that, and just randomly, I'll just pick up, like, if something is interesting and someone suggests it to me, I will like pick it up. But generally, it's been Saga, Buffy, and Invincible, and there were a couple of other series that I was Blade of the Immortal, which is like a manga, and for a really long time it was Fables, and then Fables ended.
I didn't get into Fables, but that was on my radar. Oh, you know who I'm really into, and I'm always buy his books, is Ed Brubaker.
Yeah, definitely.
He did Criminal.
Yeah.
Which was so good. So like, and he's doing something right now called Fade Out.
Okay.
That's pretty good. I'm not as into it as I was into Criminal. I just love the whole idea of Criminal of these. You know, each arc was a different character in this world.
Yeah.
But they're all interconnected, but they're not. You know, I like comics. Any comic that allows itself to be like loose like that and just kind of be a world as opposed to like a really specific character. I think is cool.
Invincible is like that, where like there's a bunch of spin-offs from that book, and Robert Kirkman has like at least started all of the spin-offs that are all characters that appeared in Invincible that like either had a one shot that was like a couple of issues and now is in a trade, or is now like an ongoing from a side character from Invincible. And like he starts the first like arc and then he hands it off to someone else, but it's like its own little universe that now all the side characters are getting. He's like building his own superhero universe.
Yeah, that's cool.
And Brubaker's run on Dare. I mean, I know I'm talking about. It's not that I just read superhero stuff. It's just that happens to be a lot of what I'm reading now. But Brubaker's run on Daredevil was actually really good too.
I think I read that because I love Daredevil's one of my favorite superheroes. Like, just always enjoyed his stuff. I think I like superhero stuff that is a little more anchored in the real. You know, although I went through a phase like I went through a phase in my mid-20s where it was during the Civil War run and like and the death of Captain America and all that stuff. So I was really into superhero stuff then, but I haven't really. The only superhero comic I've been sort of checking out lately, and I'm not sure I'm going to continue, is Warren Ellis's run on Moon Knight. That was
the first two trades of that are pretty good. I don't know anything about Moon Knight, but I really like Warren Ellis. Right. I generally I will give a shot just because their track record has been really good as a company. I will give a shot to almost anything that Image puts out now. I will give it a shot. A lot of them have been. There's a horror series called Nailbiter that's fantastic. Like, there's a lot of just like different genre stuff that Image puts out that is like even the not great stuff like is pretty good. Like there was one called Freak Angels that Warren Ellis wrote that I was really into. It's just consistently Image has been putting out really high quality stuff, and the creators own everything, which I also. You're talking about like companies.
Yeah, very creator driven, which is very cool. I mean, I like superhero comics a lot, but I think eventually I got out of them because it was overwhelming. Like I was like they split into the new Avengers and the old Avengers. Like this was during Civil War, and then there was World War Hulk was going on, and like it was all interconnected. And I was like, ugh, I cannot keep up with all of this stuff.
Yeah. I dip into individual characters is what I do, or individual runs by specific writers is what I've been doing because otherwise it's just too much.
Yeah.
So before
that's the thing. It fights my nerd tendencies. Are like, but I have to trace it if it links out somewhere. I have to get it.
Yeah, exactly. So before I let you go, this is a question because we have never met before and I've never talked to you before. Although you seem cool. Like someone I would actually hang out with if I'm ever on the West Coast.
Trick is on you.
Yes. So, just a question that I asked people who I don't already know on the podcast is, what is one thing that you are really obsessive about that when you start to talk about it, you watch people's eyes glaze over? Like something you're really obsessive and like nerdy about.
Yep. Well, I won't mention comics or booze, because those things. I mean, booze definitely. Yeah. Bars, like I will talk about my favorite bars and give people recommendations about bars forever. Like I love talking about different bars and things like that. The thing though that is really eye glazy is productivity. Like I'm a big like notebook pencil guy, you know. Like I have little systems, and so like if people are like, "Oh man, how do you get through all your email?" Because I'm like a big inbox zero guy, and so like, I will talk to you about like productivity systems, and nobody's interested in talking about that.
You're in good company. Taylor Molly, or I don't know, who's like a slam poet who had this poem that went out everywhere. You've probably heard a version of it called "What Teachers Make." His is United States Postal Regulations because he sends a lot of different packages out to people.
That I remember that guy, the teacher.
Yes.
It was even like early on. That was like early stuff.
Yeah. That has become like its own. He's been on this podcast. That became its own weird meme thing. Like, it's crazy. So since you talked about suggestions, let's trade bar suggestions. So if I'm on the West Coast near you, where are 2 bars that I should go to? And then I will give you 2.
Okay, I'm gonna give you 3.
Okay.
One in my recent home of Oakland, California, which I'm so sad to be leaving for a year to do this LA experiment. But I think the greatest bar in the Bay Area is a bar called the Hotsy Club.
Okay.
In Albany, which is in the East Bay, just north of Oakland, actually just north of Berkeley. And it's called the Hotsy Club, so you got to check that out. It's going to be inconvenient to get to,
okay,
but I don't care. If you're in the Bay Area and you don't go, I will consider it a personal insult.
Okay.
In Los Angeles, and this will give you a sense of the kind of bars I like. Like, this is a kind of Siddhartha booze thing. Like,
yes.
I have a bit, like, places that are, like, fancy or, like, have, like, a thing, like, they're really, like, they got the, like, bespoke cocktail thing, or it's kind of a scene, or it's a little thing. Like, those are great. Those are great places.
Right.
Those are not bars to me.
Right.
If it doesn't open at noon, I'm like, that's not a bar. What is that? A bar is like a church. Like, a bar is supposed to be open. You know, a bar is a place for it's a place for people who need to take breaks from life.
Right.
So I tend to go for the divier bar. So there's a bar in Los Angeles that I really love called the Tattletale Room.
Okay.
So I would recommend going to the Tattletale Room. But then the best bar, and again, there'd be no reason for you, unless you're driving from the Bay Area to LA. If you ever find yourself in Oxnard, California,
okay,
this is one of the coolest bars I've ever been to, called the Rudder Room.
Okay.
And Oxnard is this weird, like, vacation beach boat community.
Yeah.
And there's this bar that is literally on the beach, in that it's divey.
Yeah.
But the back bar is not, usually the back bar is like a mirror or like whatever, or then it's where the bottles go.
Yeah.
Their back bar is just windows that look out onto the ocean.
Nice.
And you can take your beer and just go to the beach. Like, you just walk, no one cares. Like, you just, like, take your beer, go sit out, and they have a beach volleyball court outside. It is the chillest, like, coolest bar. So I would recommend that.
Okay. So
what about you, New York?
Let's see. In Manhattan, I already brought this up. Rattle and Hum. It is Rattle and Hum. Yeah, it is in Midtown. I would say it's on. I forget what exact block it's on, but it is the place that has the rotating beer list. So if you're a beer person, I would definitely go there because it's a great place to just go and check out beer. I would have suggested Barcade, which is the place that also has a rotating beer list, and all the walls are lined with 80s video game cabinets.
Yep.
But that place has kind of become like a weird franchisey, crowded, a lot of hipsters, might be annoying.
Yeah.
So my alternate to Barcade is a place called Gotham City Lounge in Bushwick, Brooklyn. It's
I like the sound of that.
Pure dive bar. When you go in, it is a hole-in-the-wall dive bar. But it is a dive bar in which all of the walls, and so there's a screen on one of the walls that is constantly showing anime films. The floors are lined with comic book covers, or actual comic books that have been mylar down to the floor, and there's just toys everywhere. So it's basically a neighborhood dive bar that the owner, who's this Hispanic guy who's lived in that neighborhood since before it gentrified, who's a super nerd who opened this little, like, hole-in-the-wall bar and then stocked it with all his nerd stuff. So that's great, because it
sounds like literally the perfect. It sounds like the perfect bar for this conversation.
Yeah. I would have, again, sorry, I'm going into like 4. I would have suggested, the Wayfair, the Doctor Who bar that we have here too, but it's not as. I feel like that's another place that's become like famous now, whereas like Gotham City Lounge is like, no, you're going to a dive bar that has nerdy shit in it. And the other one is one of my favorite places for whiskey it's in Williamsburg. It's called Norman's Kill. It is a whiskey / grilled cheese place. So they have like 8 or 9 kinds of grilled cheese sandwiches, and the entire back wall is all. I mean, they have beer too, but the entire back wall is all whiskey, and they have a giant whiskey menu. And it is one of my favorite places in the entire city.
Well, you know what? In that case, okay, I'll give you one more in LA, which you really should if you're ever in LA. You really should hit up. It's in downtown LA. It's called Bar Jackalope.
Okay.
And it's a whiskey bar. That similar thing. Like they just have insane whiskey. Like they have whiskey from India. I mean, they have like every. I've never seen it, but it's a it's a bar that's inside another bar. It's called 7 Grand. So you go to this bar, 7 Grand, and then they have another bar that's like behind a secret door. It's one of those places, and you can actually buy. It's at a very high markup. You can buy a bottle of whiskey, and they'll keep it for you with your name on it in their cabinet. And so I just bought myself. I bought myself a bottle of, and then so you can go anytime and just get your own sit with your bottle of whiskey. So I bought myself something called Wild Turkey Rare Breed, which is 112 proof.
Okay, yes. Awesome. So
Bar Jackalope.
So You Can Do Better is every Tuesday at 10:30 on Tru-TV on the East Coast, which I'm assuming. What is it on the West Coast?
It is also 10:30 on the West Coast. 9:30 Central, Mountain Coast. I do not know.
And you just, I hope you were allowed to say this, but you're already in production on the 2nd season, which is exciting.
We are premiering in March. We're going to be covering, unless this gets changed, but hopefully not, we're going to be covering exciting topics such as tattoos.
Okay.
Race, which I'm pretty excited about. Pets.
Okay.
And other things such as that.
Awesome. And just one more time, where we can check you out and follow you on all that stuff, all the good stuff, all the social media, and where the book is available. Even though we mentioned it before, let's mention it again.
Let's mention it again. Yeah. So the best place is my website, which is youwillnotbelieve.us. You will not believe us. And that has links out to all my various projects, and including You Suck at Drinking, which is available on Amazon and in fine bookstores everywhere. And then on Twitter, I am at Matt. Figure it out. I don't know.
Awesome. So thanks so much for doing this. This will probably go up
Jamie, it's my pleasure, man.
week. And if I'm ever on the West Coast, we should go to a bar and hang out. And ditto if you're ever on the East Coast in New York.
Definitely. We should go to a bar.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
All right, man. It was my pleasure.
So, You Can Do Better. How did that start? How did you come to that?
I'll go backwards. So You Can Do Better is a comedy advice show. But I wrote a book a year earlier called You Suck at Drinking.
Okay.
Which is sort of like I wrote it sort of like if there was a Boy Scout manual for drinking. Like that's kind of what my kind of format was. Like, can you approach a subject like drinking and give people advice and teach people about it in a kind of a wholesome way? Or like, would it be funny? It'd be funny to give people advice on a subject that most people just kind of sloppily figure out on their own. And so that then got developed into the You Can Do Better as a show that's kind of a general comedy advice show. So it's not specific to drinking, but instead each episode is a new topic. So, like, we did drinking in season 1, but we also did weed and sports and friendship and things like that.
Right. So what was the impetus for the book? Because I'm kind of fascinated by this teaching adults how to be adults, almost.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think I started writing about drinks about 10 or 12 years ago, just kind of randomly. Like, I was a writer, not very good. You know, I was like writing like bad short stories and trying to just get better. But I got a gig writing about wine for this journal called McSweeney's, which was a literary journal that kind of had a humor bent to it. And so the idea was, I was so frustrated. I used to own a cafe, and I was so frustrated by how, like, people talked about wine or talked about booze or wrote about it. It was like, that's not why I drink. Like, if you've ever read, like, any drink writing or how alcohol is discussed, it's either really stupid, beer, you had to build a beer bong out of things you find in your bathroom.
Right.
Or it's really snobby, and so I just started writing about it. Like, I was like, I don't want to write about drinks. I want to write about drinking. And
right.
So, so getting into that, I understood nothing. I was like, here's how to drink at a wedding. Here's how to order. Here's how to order. Like, I was like, all this stuff that, I mean, I love drinking, I love bars, and yet I was like, there's no, I don't know, it's like no one teaches you this, the messy stuff, like we get taught about a lot of how to be polite, and you get taught manners, and you get all these things, but you encounter, when you get older, you encounter things in your adult life, like, well, shit, no one taught hangover, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
How did I miss? Sorry, can I curse?
Yeah, of course you can. Oh my God, if you only knew.
So it was this. So I was like, all these lessons about, like, the world and about adult life are kind of missed. All the how to be a good friend. How to hang out with people who are different than you. How to argue. Like, all these skills that, I don't know, I just felt like they were important life skills that they're silly in some ways because, like, drinking, who needs to be better at that? And yet, I don't know, it seems like, why not? Like, why not be more engaged and more informed about the dumb stuff in your life that, because you're going to have to go to an office holiday party at some point. Like, you may as well kind of get yourself prepared for it.
Right. So my thing that, like, I was just fascinated me about this was that it seems like it's stupid, but there are so many, like, basic things as an adult, especially if you're, like, I mean, I don't know how old you are, but I'm way out of college now. But there's so many things that, like, as an adult, it seems like they're very simple things, but no one really shows you how to do them in any sort of coherent way. And the way I actually, like, why particularly is I have a couple of friends who are either on the spectrum or kids who just for one reason or another, when they were kids, even if they weren't, like, on the autism spectrum, they were just, like, kids who were, like, sheltered or something, and then they get thrown into the adult world and no one showed them how to be at a bar or, like, make friends, and then they're stuck as an adult, kind of, like, with all these things that they should have gone. Like, I won't say his name, but I have a friend who basically is going through that now. It's like, oh, all these things I was supposed to do when I was in college. I didn't do any of those things.
Yeah. I know, it's so, hopefully your friend listens to this show and knows exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, he probably will.
I've recorded stuff from him before. It's
Okay, well, yeah, it is funny, and I think, especially this is okay. I'm an old guy, so I'm 37.
okay. I
So
think you're maybe 3 years older than I am, so it's not. Yeah, I'm gonna be 35 in a month, so it's.
Okay. Yeah. So you and I grew up before the internet, really. Like, I had an email address in college. I'm sure you did too. We had AOL dial-up in my house as a teenager, but it just wasn't what it is now. Obviously, like
Right.
I didn't live much of my life on the internet.
Right.
And I'm painting with a really broad brush, and I'm not smart enough to know if this is actually the case, but it does seem like, because a lot of people are learning and growing up with the internet and through social networks, and like that's kind of a lot of how people spend their life, and it's how they develop their brain. And so there's a lot of like real world, like face to face just experiences that people kind of it's scary, and it's scary to walk into a bar you're driving across the country and you're in just Kansas, and like you should feel comfortable and excited about going to like the local dive bar, just seeing what's up there and hitting and striking up a conversation with someone who's at the bar like that. I think that's a good experience to have, and I think like the more engaged we can be in the things of our lives, even if it seems dumb, like drinking or friendship isn't dumb and talking isn't dumb, but you never think about getting better at those things, right?
Yeah.
You don't think about improving yourself in those ways, and those are things that can make your life in the real world and online. But like you spend a lot of your days just having to interact with people in various capacities, and if you were better at talking to waiters and waitresses, your life would be better.
Yeah.
If you were better, yeah.
I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that so many. I mean, you said you worked at a cafe. I worked in a restaurant behind the counter for about 7 years, and then I was a bartender for like 2 years. So I particularly appreciated the drink better episode. I was just like, oh, I want to hand this to every person who ever walked into my bar. Just like, these are the things, these are the basic things.
Yeah, it's so true, and that's another thing that I get excited about with this show is this idea of untapped wisdom in the world, like bartenders and sanitation workers and the people who clean your office. Like there's so much wisdom in the world about how to be in the world. Like the bus driver knows a fucking lot about how to be on a bus.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they can and it's a small thing, but it's like if I can talk to a person who can open up the world to me, or parts of the world that are intimidating or scary, or point out things that I don't even know I don't know, but I'm just being an idiot. People behave like monsters in restaurants.
They really do.
And if you've never worked at a restaurant, then you just don't know like how horrible you're being.
Yeah. 2 seconds. I think I might have figured this out. Hold on.
Oh, great.
Okay, try again.
Yes, hello.
Ha-ha! Sorry. That was really loud. I apologize.
Perfect.
I don't know why that worked, but suddenly like putting you into the headphones and then putting the volume up, even though it was already up, just pressing the volume button, and now you're coming through the speaker for some bizarre reason.
Classic audio engineering tactic there. Just push a bunch of buttons.
Well, I was sitting here going like, why did this work 2 seconds ago? And then now you clearly sound better than you did before.
Good. Great. Hello, everybody. This is how I sound when I sound great.
Well, it's still a phone, so it's like you sound better, but you definitely sound like better than you did.
I still am on the phone. All right.
Yeah.
To do them in any sort of coherent way. And
Right.
the way I actually like, why particularly is I have a couple of friends who are either on the spectrum or kids who just for one reason or kids for one reason or another when they were kids, even if they weren't like on the autism spectrum, they were just like kids who were like sheltered or something, and then they get thrown into the adult world and no one showed them how to be at a bar or like make friends, and then they're stuck as an adult kind of like with all these things that they should have gone. Like I won't say his name, but I have a friend who basically is going through that now. It's like, oh, all these things I was supposed to do when I was in college. I didn't do any of those things.
Yeah. I know. It's so. Hopefully, your friend listens to this show and knows exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, he probably will. I've recorded stuff from him before. It's
Okay, well, yeah, it is funny, and I think, especially this is okay. I'm an old guy, so I'm 37.
okay.
So
You're maybe 3 years older than I am, so it's not. Yeah, I'm gonna be 35 in a month, so it's.
Okay. Yeah. So you and I grew up before the internet, really. Like, I had an email address in college. I'm sure you did too. We had AOL dial-up in my house as a teenager, but it just wasn't what it is now, obviously. Like,
Right.
I didn't live much of my life on the internet.
Right.
And I'm painting with a really broad brush, and I'm not smart enough to know if this is actually the case, but it does seem like because a lot of people are learning and growing up with the internet and through social networks, and like that's kind of a lot of how people spend their life, and it's how they develop their brain. And so there's a lot of like real world, like face to face, just experiences that people kind of. It's like it's scary, and it's scary. It's scary to walk into a bar. You're driving across the country and you're in just Kansas, and like you should feel comfortable and excited about going to like the local dive bar, just seeing what's up there and hitting and striking up a conversation with someone who's at the bar like that. I think that's a good experience to have, and I think like the more engaged we can be in the things of our lives, even if it seems dumb, like drinking or friendship isn't dumb and talking isn't dumb, but you never think about getting better at those things, right?
Yeah.
You don't think about improving yourself in those ways, and those are things that can make your life in the real world and online. But like you spend a lot of your days just having to interact with people in various capacities, and if you were better at talking to waiters and waitresses, your life would be better.
Yeah.
If you were better,
I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that so many. I mean, you said you worked at a cafe. I worked in a restaurant behind the counter for about 7 years, and then I was a bartender for like 2 years. So I particularly appreciated the drink better episode. I was just like, oh, I want to hand this to every person who ever walked into my bar. Just like, these are the things, these are the basic things.
Yeah, it's so true, and that's that's another thing that I get excited about with this show is this idea of untapped wisdom in the world, like bartenders and sanitation workers and the people who clean your office. Like there's so much wisdom in the world about how to be in the world. Like the bus driver knows a fucking lot about how to be on a bus.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they can and it's a small thing, but it's like if I can talk to a person who can open up the world to me, or parts of the world that are intimidating or scary, or point out things that I don't even know I don't know, but I'm just being an idiot. People behave like monsters in restaurants.
They really do.
And if you've never worked at a restaurant, then you just don't know like how horrible you're being.
Yeah. 2 seconds. I think I might have figured this out. Hold on.
Oh, great.
Okay, try again.
Yes, hello.
Ha-ha! Sorry. That was really loud. I apologize.
Perfect.
I don't know why that worked, but suddenly like putting you into the headphones and then putting the volume up, even though it was already up, just pressing the volume button, and now you're coming through the speaker for some bizarre reason.
Classic audio engineering tactic there. Just push a bunch of buttons.
Well, I was sitting here going like, why did this work 2 seconds ago? And then now you clearly sound better than you did before.
Good. Great. Hello, everybody. This is how I sound when I sound great.
Well, I mean, it's still a phone, so it's like you sound better, but, you definitely sound like better than you did. Like,
I still am on a phone. All right.
Yeah.